Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Beer and Money. My name is Ryan Burklo.
And I'm Alex Collins.
And on today's episode, we're going to talk about the one factor of the greatest impact on your financial success. We're going to start today's episode talking about the five that are out there, and we're going to focus on the first one today.
And we promise we'll go through the next four of them.
Absolutely. So before we dive into that, though, Alex, what are you drinking today?
Today, I'm drinking a triple.
That's a good one.
From New Belgium. Like this is just, it's an old favorite of mine.
Yep. So you'll be happy to know, I didn't know, for whatever reason, I haven't been to Mac and Jack in a while. And I was at the store the other day. They've got a new IPA out.
Nice. They've got a few new beers out.
Yeah. So August Bay, Indian, the IPA. So I happened to grab this. It was gorgeous, like 75 degrees outside. So I was smoking some ribs. Like, I need a beverage while I was doing this. And so I grabbed this, and it was just delightful. So Mac and Jack's is one of our favorite breweries there in Rubman, Washington. Kind of the your entry to craft beer. It was my entry as well. So definitely check them out if you have not.
Yeah, Mac and Jack's holds a special place in my heart. Like we had 3 different beers from Mac and Jack's at my wedding.
Yep. So check them out. Let's dive into it today. So let's back out. There's really 5 factors that really impact financial success. And actually, we should back out even further. When we discuss financial success, we're really talking about, are you able to live the life that you want to live or that you've grown accustomed to throughout? And that's into retirement.
Yeah, we're talking about reaching sufficiency for retirement. Like being able to live the life that you want to live for the rest of your life with either the probability or the guarantee that you're going to achieve that.
So those 5 factors are the amount of wealth, the location of wealth, the true liquidity ratio, like how much access you have with low risk of volatility and whatnot.
The asset truly is. And when we get to that one, like right now, that probably isn't going to make a whole lot of sense to people. When we get there, it'll make a lot more sense.
Distribution tax status, and then the distribution tax strategy. Today's episode, we're focusing on the amount of wealth. And I know that this is where most people focus their attention, right? The attention is, how big can I grow the number, right? My net worth, my assets. How big can I grow that? And that's their focus, right? And it tends to be an investment rate of return type of conversation. Frankly, most advisors focus in this one area.
Well, essentially, there's 2 ways that most advisors look at this. One is rate of return, and the other is how much can we save? Now, the truly good advisors are talking to you about trying to find ways to reduce fees or reduce taxes or be more efficient with all of the other like little inputs that go into it. But most of it is, how can we drive the biggest pile of money?
In today's episode, we're really going to focus on, while this is a factor in financial success, like obviously you have to have some assets for you to be able to live your life the way that you want. In our opinion, it's actually one of the smallest factors when it comes to efficiency of your assets.
But I mean, don't get us wrong. More, better. Like if you have more dollars, that is a good thing. It's just not as impactful as some of the other mechanisms. And we're going to walk through an example today of how that could go ahead and actually be the case. So if you're listening to this while driving, great. Don't go over to our YouTube channel and try and follow the video while you're driving. Please don't do that. We'll try to go ahead and help you visualize this as much as possible. For if you're at home, head on over to YouTube. We're going to share our screen and walk through like a really simple calculator to go ahead and illustrate some of the concepts of what we're showing and talking about.
So let's bring up your screen there, Alex. So Alex is going to bring up a calculator and we're going to go through what we're talking about. Like we just said a pretty big statement, like where the amount of wealth is not the biggest factor. It's a factor. It's not the biggest factor. And I think, I mean, had you told me this 10 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. So we're going to go into this. So Alex just pulled up his calculators here. Alex, why don't you take him through the numbers here?
So if we're looking at a hypothetical, right? So like this isn't any one particular investment. We're trying to give an example. So person A has $1 million that they're starting out with. Let's say they're 10 years away from retirement. And let's say that they're putting $25,000 a year into their investments. And we're just going to keep it one thing. We're going to, again, we're simplifying this for the ease of illustration. And if we assume that we're getting a 6% net after tax, net after fee rate of return, and we pull that out for the next 10 years.
When Alex says net, he means after tax, after fee.
Yes. Thank you, Ryan. So ultimately that's going to create $2.1 million at the end of that 10-year time period, net of all expenses and fees and taxes. So our $1 million grew to 2.1, and like we added an extra $250,000 over that time period. So, ultimately we had somewhere in the neighborhood of $850,000 worth of growth. And let's assume that person B started out with the same $1 million and added the same $25,000 a year, but they got a 3% rate of return as opposed to a 6% rate of return. And again, if we look out 10 years, we see that person winds up with a little bit over $1.6 million. And so there's roughly a $500,000 difference.
So let's just pause right there real quick. The difference between these two numbers is frankly rate of return. One got a 6% rate of return. The other person got a 3% rate of return. And so in math sense, and the way I think most people look at their finances, you've got one person with 2.1 million of assets. You've got another person at 1.6 million of assets. One would most likely jump to the conclusion that the person with $2.1 million is going to have a higher income in retirement because they can kick off higher income from 2.1 million versus 1.6. Accurate statement, Alex?
Yes. I get, if we took a straw poll and we asked people what they thought of this, like I'm sure 100% of the people would rather have the 2.1 than the 1.6.
But what do we care about when we are turning these assets into income? What do we care about?
We care about the income. We care about what we can actually live on and what we can actually enjoy during our lifetime. So if we take the 2.1 million and we use the traditional 4% distribution rate, saying, hey, we don't want to run out of money. We want to make sure that we have the likelihood of success. And like we can go in, like we've done other videos on the 4% rule and why it exists and like the pros and cons to it and things of that nature. That's not today. Today, what we're looking at is using the 4% rule, we can create the expectation of $84,000 a year for the rest of this person's life. Now,
and I want to stop real quick there. So what's right? The 4% rule, that's taking 4% from the $2.1 million, right? That's the income, right? So that's kicking off the $85,000 per year. And I already know some people are going to say, well, could you take more than 4%? Could you take like you're going to have the analytics out there, the mini Alex Collins out there, like going through these numbers. And the fact of the matter is most people, when they get to retirement, they're doing some version of scraping the interest from the portfolio. Maybe they take a little bit more some years, maybe they take a little less other years. But the fact of the matter is they're not taking $2.1 million and saying, I'm going to spend that money down. Like that's just not their plan.
Right.
They might actually think that plan right now, but as they get closer to retirement, they're not thinking that way because what most people are drastically afraid of is running out of money in retirement. And then you've got the other considerations like medical costs that are also a big concern for most people in retirement.
Fear of running out of money is the number one fear.
Correct.
It's bigger than dying. It's bigger than cancer. It's bigger than losing one's faculties. The number one fear for retirees is running out of money. And so as a result, people tend to use the 4% rule because they want to have more certainty with what the outcome is. And that is the way our industry has taught people to have certainty. Now, the alternative here is like, okay, let's take our, instead of getting 84, let's take our $1.6 million and let's assume that that was put into a vehicle that was going to guarantee an 8% distribution in retirement. Like, ignore the mechanics of that. There are specific examples that Ryan and I can point to. That's not important for today's conversation. What is important is there are vehicles out there that can go ahead and guarantee an 8% distribution in this scenario.
For life.
Yeah, for life. And that's for both spouses. So we can go ahead and guarantee 128,000 from our 1.6. And so now we can get 84 that we're fairly certain it's going to work. There's an expectation that we'll be able to have $84,000 a year, or we can have a guarantee of having 128. This is an example where size, while important, matters, but it's not the most important thing. Like, this is taking a look at a distribution method. We'll go into more distribution methods when we get to that step in this 5-part series. But the goal today was to show, while size matters, it's not the only factor. And like, okay, if we take that $1.6 million and multiply it by our 4% rule, like, okay, that's only 64. So we're losing out on $20,000 if we use the same distribution method. And what this is designed to show is it's designed to show that while we've got a difference in dollar amount, there is a size advantage for the $2.1 million. The income advantage goes to the 1.6 because we're able to go ahead and guarantee an 8% distribution. Now,
this is where the other 4 factors that we mentioned at the top of this episode come into play. 100%. And they come into play drastically, like in a good way, if you set yourself up appropriately. So a big, and I'm not trying to demean any other advisor, any other person that is only focusing on the rate of return and the amount of wealth that they can have, because in every scenario, the more money we have, the more assets we have, the better we can be. But the other 4 factors is what enables us to have the highest income and strategies that go into place, and frankly, legacy that comes into play if needed.
Yeah.
And that's the piece where when you're only focusing on the amount of wealth or the rate of return, you're missing out on what's important. And correct us if we're wrong. Go to beerandmoney.net, go to contact us and say, you guys are wrong. I don't care about my income in retirement. I want to hear from someone. Like, I just don't think that I don't think that exists, because you still have bills to pay in retirement. I hate to say it, but you do.
Well, and Ryan, I can hear people saying, "Oh, I don't care about legacy." Okay, great. Give yourself a bigger.
I said income. I didn't say anything about legacy in that statement. I said income.
No, I know. But like, well, one of the things you brought up a minute ago was legacy and
sure,
the impact that it has on legacy. And like, we've had clients that have said, "Oh, Alex, I don't care about legacy." Okay, great. Like, you want your last check to bounce? Cool. And by employing these different strategies where we're able to go ahead and enhance and increase the amount of income that you get off of the same dollars, less dollars, the same inputs, however you want to phrase it, like, that's better. Like, more choice, more flexibility. You have more ability to do whatever the heck you want with your dollars. Like, that is a better way of doing it. Now, we're not, let's be clear. We're not recommending 100% into any one of these aspects. We're looking at it as black and white, trying to compare it to give you a clear understanding. And one of the things that we have preached consistently is creating financial balance. There is no one magical best solution to everything. You have to create balance. And that's true not just of finances, but of diet, exercise, like just about everything in life. We want to try and create balance between all of the different aspects. And balance does not mean equal. It means appropriate amounts.
Absolutely. So real quick review of what we spoke about today. If you're focusing on how big to grow your assets, and that's the only thing you're focusing on, you're missing out on 4 other factors, and you're missing out on really what you really care about of growing those assets. And that's turning those assets into an income stream so that you can continue to live the life that you want. Look, we started this podcast to help you focus on your money from the standpoint of really relieving the stress of the money and learning how to best utilize it in the life that you want to live. We hope this episode helped change or maybe have you think differently about maybe how you thought about money in the past. And so we'd love to hear from you. Head up to beerandmoney.net at the contact us. That's where you can get in touch with us. Or if you have another topic you want us to talk about, that's a great spot too. We hope this episode is valuable for you. And as always, Mr. Collins.
Cheers.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not to be construed as tax, legal, or investment advice. Although the information has been gathered from sources believed to be reliable, please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon only when coordinated with individual professional advice. Guest speakers and their firms are not affiliated with or endorsed by Park Avenue Securities, Guardian, or Quantified Financial Partners, and opinions stated are their own. Guardian, its subsidiaries, agents, and employees do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. Consult your tax, legal, or accounting professional regarding your individual situation. All investments and investment strategies contain risk and may lose value. This material is intended for general public use. By providing this content, Park Avenue Securities LLC is not undertaking to provide investment advice or a recommendation for any specific individual or situation, or to otherwise act in a fiduciary capacity. Please contact a financial representative for guidance and information that is specific to your individual situation. Discussions around guaranteed rates of return are for illustrative purposes only. Certain guarantees are backed solely by the claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company, and additional restrictions may apply. Ryan and Alex are registered representatives and financial advisors of Park Avenue Securities, LLC, OSJ 200 Market Street, Suite 1850, Portland, Oregon, 97201. Phone number 503-221-1226. Securities products and advisory services offered through Park Avenue Securities member FINRA, SIPC. Financial representatives of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, Guardian, New York, New York. Park Avenue Securities is a wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. Quantified Financial Partners is not an affiliate or subsidiary of Park Avenue Securities or Guardian. Ryan Burklo, CA Insurance License Number 0K24924. Alexander Collins, CA Insurance License Number 0H24806. Pinpoint Number 2024-177340. Expiration June 2026.